is Dr. Linnea Tillett, founder and principal of the Tillett Lighting Design Associates. And she has shared with us her video lecture titled Emotionally Durable Lighting Design. So ladies and gentlemen, please meet Dr. Tillett on the screen.
Good morning. My name is Linnea Tillett. I'm the principal of Tillett Lighting Design Associates. And I want to start by thanking the LUCI Asian Lighting Workshop and the Seoul Metropolitan Government for inviting me to speak. And I also wanted to thank Jung-Soo Kim, one of my very first students at Parsons School Graduate Lighting Program, for submitting my name. I want to briefly introduce my firm because while I am the one speaking, the work of the firm is produced and directed by these highly experienced lighting designers with backgrounds in landscape architecture, product design, sculpture, and architectural lighting. I myself have a doctorate in environmental psychology, which is a perspective that, as you will see, I bring to every single one of our projects. We are predominantly a landscape lighting firm. We work in parks and in plazas, and on their structures. And we work across the US in the north and the south and the east and the west. We work in Canada, and we have worked in the north and south of China and in very, very cold Finland. As we say on our website, we treat every design challenge as an opportunity to find the poetic in the functional, the elegant in the robust, and simplicity in regulatory and technical complexity. And this is important to us, we care deeply about how a space feels as well as how it looks. Why emotionally durable design? Why has this become important? Well, a lot has changed for us in the last few years. There's always been a need for neighborhood parks and local parks, and we have been kept very busy over these years. But the demand for these parks is increasing now exponentially. Communities across the country are asking for the construction of outdoor space where they can take their children, where they can relax, exercise, meet up with friends, and generally get away from the tensions of everyday, ordinary, and now not so ordinary life. And they want these spaces open and accessible during the evening hours. Gone are the days where nighttime parks were viewed as frightening spaces that should be closed immediately at dark. On the contrary, usable, welcoming parks, day and evening, are now viewed as contributing to the mental health of the community. I want to start by talking about I want to summarize what I've just said. So a more emotionally durable design of outdoor public space is open and accessible at night, affords both active and passive restoration, values the experience of residents, and is sustainable and maintainable. And I want to talk about that part, the sustainable and maintainable part of the equation first. So let's now call this physically durable design. What I want to do is to show you two projects which are in process and tell you some of the challenges that we've experienced. So the details of the project are not so important, but the challenges are. Physical challenges used to mean peeling paint, knocked over fixtures, lamp replacement, local weather events, and I emphasize that local, and this is also key, maintenance and operations were never at the table at the beginning of the process. And these are some simple examples of the kind of challenges that we used to meet. Now we're meeting in a very different kind of phenomena, which is where local weather meets climate change. And I do want to talk for a moment about why I think it's important that lighting be durable and that lighting infrastructure should be physically maintainable and robust. Because obviously without lighting, parks quickly fall back into being dangerous and unnavigatable spaces. But just as importantly, when lighting is not maintained, it contributes to a sense of municipal instability and the perception that a local community is not cared about by the city institutions. So that emphasizes its importance, but also we have to recognize that we as lighting designers are now facing a very unstable and unpredictable climate environment. In the south of the United States, there have always been floods, but these floods are increasing. What's really quite new is now we are getting violent snowstorms in the south. And later, I think this time last year in February, there was such a violent storm in the warmer parts of Texas that 65 people were killed and there was massive infrastructural destruction. In the West, we're now facing fires, which are both caused by infrastructure and also destroyed so this infrastructure is destroyed in the fires. And we are now dealing with violent and unpredictable storms. In New York, we like to think that Sandy was a one-time event. This past summer, we had severe flooding, not quite of Sandy proportions, but enough, again, to destroy infrastructure and profoundly disrupt people's lives. So here are two examples from our practice. One of them in the Bentonville, Fayetteville region of Arkansas, and the other in Akron, Ohio. So this part of Arkansas is densely wooded, and parks often sit within these wooded areas. We were invited to design a park within a park. And what I want to tell you was the most significant event of the beginning of this project is that when we were interviewed, maintenance and operations were at the table with the client and they had to approve our initial design. It was such a fundamental change in how those kind of interviews go, and we very much welcomed it. So we developed a plan for this park, this wooded area. So you can see lots of pathways. Those large open areas are all places to gather. We came up with a design that worked with color temperature to create a sense of place and also orientation. And then the local electrical engineer was brought in to look at our design. And he reviewed it. He looked at our mist deck, our nice poles, integrated lighting, rail lighting. He looked at our big plaza lighting, these very tall poles, and again, accent lighting under benches. And he looked at our cascade lighting. And he said, it's all very beautiful and I want to make it work. But what about the lightning storms? The severity of the lightning storms in this region. And what has happened since then is that we have all begun to work together very closely and work with our manufacturers to understand how we can think about this project in a different way. So there have been all kinds of moves that we're making at the moment, looking at the density of the trees, looking at where the lightning hits. We have been revising, and revising. And here's the key thing that I think is going to be important going forward, is that we are flexible and open to change. Changing types of fixtures, changing locations of fixtures, changing locations of drivers, and important, as lighting designers, now being a conduit to information for manufacturers so that we can create this loop of modifications and thoughtfulness that will make projects going forward much more robust. This is a project in Akron, Ohio. You can see it's a lovely little park. It has gathering places, seating places, an amphitheater, sits next to a lock, or you could call it a little canal. They used to talk about this canal as a 50-year flooding event. We finished up our design. We presented it both in the summer and the winter. And the local maintenance and operations people reviewed it, and they said, you have to understand that most of this park will flood. That is not a 100-year event or a 50-year event. It is a question simply not if, but when. So you begin to look at your designs and realize that here in Akron, and at least 3 other projects we're working, going underwater is part of how the park has to exist. So again, this is actually a project that did go underwater that we did in Canada. So again, what is the important dimensions of durable design? Ask the right questions and revise. Ask yourself, what is the safest way to install and maintain the lighting equipment per the local maintenance and operations staff? What are the components that may be most severely affected in a weather event? Can they be moved out of the way? Are replacement equipment and parts on hand? That is really critical, and work closely with the landscape architect to adjust the program. Now I want to talk about the emotional part of durable design. When I say something is emotionally durable, I'm saying that what we are designing is flexible, restorative spaces that support a wide range and changing palette of activities for a diverse residential population of all ages and abilities. And we would argue that that has the best chance of meeting the diverse needs and desires of a community. Emotionally satisfying, durable neighborhood parks are welcoming, are inclusive, and afford different kinds of activities. And now I want to just talk to you about some more human dimensions. These are not neighborhood dimensions. These are aspects of restorative parks that have been really researched so that a durable design can have social, physiological, and psychological and physical qualities. One of the most important ones is extent, the promise that more can be explored than what is immediately perceived. Soft fascination, aesthetically pleasing stimuli which do not preclude the opportunity for reflection. Compatibility, a fit between users' needs and desires and the environment. And this one, I think, has become very important in the last 18 to 22 months. Awayness, the conceptual sense of being away from the ordinary, even if one is in close physical proximity to it. I now want to take you to a project in the Hudson River Park in the Tribeca area of New York City. This is actually a completed project, which we understand has become a great success, and which we have seen that to be true because we visited it repeatedly. Just a side note, we were originally hired for this project, not just for our sensitivity to the community, but also because we're known for ecological sensitivity. And while I won't be talking about that today, and that is a separate topic, this was the original list of species that we were given that they would like to draw to the community. And we were told early on that the one most important criteria is that we protect the development of fish life along the Hudson River. So this is the park. It's actually surrounded by a number of other piers with very different kind of lighting. And now I'm going to walk you through the park. So it is a walking park. It's a place where people can stroll, either in couples, at whatever age, or by themselves. It's a sitting park. One of the things we've noticed is that a lot of people actually come to this park to work. They come in the late afternoon and they stay through the evening. Some people just come to sit alone and look at the view. Others come to read. And I have to say, this was a surprise for us. There are a lot of people, and you can see that this is in autumn where it's quite cool. People bundle up and they come out and they sit and read in the park. Teenagers come to the park. They don't come for the view. They come to look at each other. And then you have other kinds of adults which come to just sit at the edge of the pier and look out into New Jersey and see the boats in the river. And you will notice that those little lights are turned away from the water's edge so as not to distress the fish. People come for romantic reasons, to hang with their friends, and to sit with each other late into the evening. There is another kind of environment that we're dealing with, which is, we will call it a complex environment, where you have active and passive restoration. In a complex park in a rapidly growing city with a young population, such as Austin, Texas, we recognize that the opportunity to enjoy a big lighting concert, to be close with masses of people, also contributes to a release of tension and a sense of being away from ordinary and not so ordinary life. So this park is called Waterloo Park. It's in Austin, Texas. Phase 1 of it is open. It opened exactly a month and a half ago. This gives you some idea of the park. It's so large, it's very difficult to photograph, but there you can see the amphitheater, you can see the large passageways and paths through the park, and you can see that there are sort of moments of quietness. So we don't like concerts, but as lighting designers, we do have a responsibility to get large numbers of people safely in and out of the park after a concert. And we have a responsibility to support the use of terraces and gardens where other more gentle kinds of experience can be had. So this is the rendering that we did originally for this project. This was a month ago, just after the park had opened. It's good to keep in mind that this is Texas. And these are the kind of important access pathways that allow people to get in and out of the park. And as you can imagine, they're lit in a way that creates safe passage. And then this is the lighting that we designed for some of the more quiet passages, these secondary paths. You can see it's just been installed, so the grasses haven't grown around it. This is a beautiful terrace where people can sit. More seating areas all throughout the park. So, in conclusion, let's ask ourselves again, what is emotionally durable design? What we would argue is it is design that is sensitive to local neighborhood needs and desires, also to more universal human needs and desires, while such a design has to be practical and brutally realistic in the face of an unpredictable and unstable physical world. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Tillett. And we will move right on to watching the pre-recorded Q&A session for Dr. Tillett's lecture.
Great. Good morning again. This is the question and answer period. I'm going to read out the questions so you understand what I'm answering. Question number 1, emotionally durable lighting is sometimes regarded as the opposite of lighting design that simply arranges lighting fixtures according to numerical standards, such as safety guidelines for illumination. In fact, some exemplary plans about installing emotionally durable lighting in public spaces show that even with a lower level of brightness, the spaces feel safe. How is emotionally durable lighting that you emphasize related to lighting design that is based on illumination standards to ensure safety? The answer is that there is no conflict between safe lighting and an emotionally durable design, and we must design to the highest standards of safety. So we don't consider them to be in conflict at all. However, you do have to work very closely with the landscape architect in order to figure out what designation one gives to certain pathways and certain spaces, and whether they fall under the same, for example, a small gathering area or a tiny path. Does it fall under the same criteria as a main path? So there's a lot of analysis that goes into this to make something actually meet both criterias, but it's very doable, and we do not design outside of the parameters that are suggested by either enforced by local codes or suggested practices by the relevant institutions. That's question number 1. Question number 2 is many places are quite the opposite of your design, which uses fixtures that are shielded and sited to blend in with the forest. Take Las Vegas, Hong Kong, or Shanghai as example. And we all enjoy visiting those spaces. What is your take on those spaces? Should they keep their fancy design to attract visitors, or should it be improved for the sake of their residents? That's a difficult question. I mean, I think what I tried to show with the project that we did in Austin is that we have to recognize that there isn't one simple rule about what helps people feel excited, feel emotional, travel. I mean, tourists should not be exempted from the population of people you want to address, but you have to design for both. And I understand that in certain tourist areas that you know, like Las Vegas and Reno, the lighting does not support local residents, but it is the lifeline of the community. And I think that the community would feel very negatively if that lighting was taken down and treated as emotionally supportive lighting. I mean, it's a tourist place. So yeah, I think we have to make room for all of it. And we have to find the right lighting designers to approach each one of these different kind of situations. I mean, quite honestly, nobody comes to us for that kind of lighting, and that's fine because there are wonderful lighting designers out there who address it. Sorry, I have to just get the questions back up. Third question, really interesting. I expect that all materials will be replaced by sustainable materials going forward. How about emotionally durable lighting? I would love it if poles were made of a mushroom-based material, and certainly there's tremendous research being done in the construction out of sort of mushroom-based materials. But I think much more at the forefront of our thinking, and it's certainly something that I'm spending an enormous amount of time researching and testing, is solar lighting. It's a very undeveloped region of lighting, and I think it's going to become a very important resource, and one which can be used in a much bigger variety of circumstances than people now typically think of it. Now they think of it as it can only be used in the West, it can only be used out in, sort of Saharan kind of conditions, or in the Middle East. That's not true. It can be used very effectively in areas of limited daylight. And I think that is the next revolution. Mushrooms are down the road, but for now, it's for my thinking, it's solar, solar, solar. The last question, what is emotionally durable lighting? I hope that I answered it with my presentation. So with that, I will say thank you very much. It was a delight to prepare for this occasion, and I look forward to continuing to be in communication with any and all of you who would like to continue the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tillett, for the insightful lecture and the Q&A session.